you hear anything on us, y'all just get down, because if he starts shooting, we're going to be shooting.
This is team number 7.
Hey, if he hits the back door and he's got a gun, he's fair game. He's history.
It's one of more than a dozen teams of lawmen that set out at daybreak to give unwelcome wake-up calls to accused drug dealers.
State police! State police! Open the door! We have a warrant. Dog inside, dog inside. State police, get down, get down, get down! Get down, get down, get down! Get on that ground!
During the arrests, drugs, financial records of drug deals, and several guns were seized.
This is 2 of them. We didn't get the rest of them.
In all, 37 arrests will be made in connection with a year-long undercover operation in Garfield County.
Most of the charges in this drug case involve selling crack to undercover agents. Police say the magnitude of this case shows that the dangerous drug has made its way from the big city out to smaller cities and rural areas in Oklahoma.
A couple of these people are Cubans, and they've been involved in probably kilo quantities of sales of crack cocaine per week.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law.
Spokesmen say the arrests wrap up one of the biggest drug cases ever in northwestern Oklahoma. Lawmen aren't kidding themselves, however. They say it should shut down the traffic of crack in the area for a while. But as long as there's a demand for the drug, they say dealers will reappear eventually. In Enid, I'm Anita Vanetti, News 4.
Minutes before midnight, a SWAT team equipped with tear gas, stun grenades, and M16s prepared to rush the home. The standoff started at 10:30 yesterday morning. Neighbors say a feud over a county road angered 70-year-old Robert Kuhlman. They say Kuhlman believed county negligence caused flooding on his property. Police say after he argued with his wife, he threatened to shoot her. When police helped Mrs. Kuhlman escape, they say Mr. Kuhlman shot 36-year-old sheriff's deputy Bud Ramming in the arm.
We looked down the barrel of a shotgun all the time we were talking to him.
Kuhlman's family tried to talk him into surrendering. They failed. After 10 hours, Kuhlman finally talked to a negotiator through a window in his home. They hesitated to use tear gas at first. They feared it would harm a man his age. When the negotiations failed, they tossed in a stun grenade to disorient him. They told him to come out. He said, "Come in and get me." Next, they used tear gas and rushed inside the house. That's when officials say Kuhlman shot one cop in the face and the other in the leg. Kuhlman finally surrendered. They took him into custody, then rushed the 2 officers to the hospital.
2 tactical team members were shot. It appears at this time that the wounds are minor.
Police had to walk a fine line between protecting themselves and protecting a man who allegedly wanted to kill them. In the end, it almost cost them 3 lives. In Caddo County, Bill Prasad, News 4. Helicopters, including Chopper 4, helped carry a special weapons and tactics team to a heavily wooded area. This woman told police a man with a gun had forced her to drive here. As police checked for tracks, an officer in a car double-checked her story. Police say it could be bogus.
Well, for one thing, she drove by the first roadblock, which is the closest roadblock. The troopers were not checking the traffic direction she was traveling. They were checking traffic coming the other direction, and she drove by that without even stopping.
They're looking for this man, 32-year-old Michael Joseph Elliott of Dallas. On Saturday night at 9:30, police believe he shot Officer Horseketter 20 miles outside of Woodward on U.S. Highway 270. Police have intensified their search in this 14-mile area.
We sure appreciate it, and the guys out there do too.
Thanks.
An army of volunteers now helps police. Residents have donated hundreds of sandwiches. Hotels swing into action, offering rooms to officers at a discount and free food. all to keep an army of about 125 men on their feet as they conduct a dangerous nighttime search.
It was so hot firefighters couldn't get close, and it took hours to shut off the gas line. 35-year-old Terry Wiseman apparently died instantly when the blade of his grader hit a line 6 inches under the road that should have been 3 feet down. Repair workers were out today replacing the old line at a lower depth. Grady County stresses safety, including calling the gas companies before working around marked gas lines. This one wasn't.
Under the circumstances, there's no change that we can make. When the line's on top of the ground and no marker, well, there's just no way of knowing.
Grady County District 1 has 9 graders, and they were out on the job today. There was plenty of work to do in this rural county, but it was hardly business as usual.
Well, it's kind of scary. There's gas lines, obviously, many of them around, and you never think about you being the one that would hit one.
Part of the reason for that is something like yesterday has never happened in Grady County before, and everyone hopes yesterday never comes again. George Tomic, News 4.
A lot of times I just want to walk off and leave it.
It got that bad for Marshall County pig farmer Jimmy Hand. He lost half a year's pork production to disease, and interest rates skyrocketed marginal profit to deep red ink. Now his son Bob is graduated from OSU and back with Dad, and the Farmers Home Administration county agent is pitched in too.
They just said their orders were to keep everybody on the farm that they possibly could, and he released their sales money to operate on instead of demanding it for payment.
The FMHA got enough incentives and orders in the 1987 Agriculture Credit Act to make the moves. All told, $88 million worth of delinquent loans have been written off or reduced to the relief of state farmers. And perhaps a lesson learned by the next generation.
Don't borrow any money unless you have to have it. You know, you can do without a lot, like new vehicles and fancy stuff for the house, just to feed the animals with, you know, because they'll pay for you.
Jimmy Hand lost his farm out of all of this. Now he has a lease purchase arrangement with a lender to try and get it back. A lot of family farmers feel lucky to have that picture for their future. In Marshall County, George Tomic, News 4, Nightcast.
Great time, bud. Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah. Man will shout.
Their numbers were few, but their message was strong and clear. Remember those who gave their lives for freedom.
2, 3, 4.
We were just fighting, and some didn't come home.
Why are you out here?
For those that didn't come back, or for the gutless wonders that ain't out here remembering the kids and the sons and the daughters that never did come home.
Thank you folks for being here. We wanted a much bigger turnout.
The march from the Capitol to the Oklahoma Veterans Memorial was a march to remember the 11,000 Oklahomans who've died in this century's wars. About 125 people showed up for the ceremony.
I think it's a shame, to put it very mildly, that more people can't take a couple of hours of a 3-day weekend to pay homage to those that cannot be here with us.
Mullings has spent the better part of a decade getting the Veterans Memorial built, a tireless effort to help Oklahomans remember. Before it's complete, these granite walls will bear the names of Oklahoma's fallen, facing the eternal flame of remembrance. Kent Boyd, News 4.
How much flammable liquids do we have involved?
Tony!
All of a sudden, just a big old burst. The flame just went up.
Had better days.
Mark Bryant was one of 4 people working on an oil rig in Piedmont when it blew up.
I started trying to put out the fire, but it was a no-go.
What happened to your friend?
Oh, well, shoot, he was over the wellhead itself on latch, and when it went up, I guess he caught it in the face.
His co-worker, Gerald Clark, was rushed to Baptist Burn Center with second-degree burns to his face and right arm.
I got one back in there, but I don't want to go after it.
Meanwhile, flare-ups and heat prevented firefighters from reaching the rig to shut off the well. It took time to find the right size equipment.
White, do you suppose out of this mess somewhere we can come up with a valve?
When they did locate one, a pair of firefighters volunteered to climb the rig and turn off the gas.
Can we string a line in there too, in case we get ignition, we can find our way out. We're not going to be able to see if we're on fire.
The firemen were sprayed with water to protect them from the heat. Finally, the torch was shut off, and the danger of another major explosion was over.
Stop all the pedestrian traffic.
When firefighters arrived, they quickly realized the potential for explosion was great. They sealed 2 city blocks and evacuated the first 2 floors of the building involved.
I'd like to know how many people is upstairs from the 2nd floor up.
The drama began about 9 o'clock. A pharmacist cleaning out a pharmacy he bought about a year ago made a discovery that made his heart skip a beat.
Picric acid, normally it's shipped underwater and it's fairly stable. And it's evidently been dry for some time. Once it dries down, it gets unstable and it gets about like nitroglycerin.
It's a Class A explosive. We've had situations where an ounce or 2 of this substance has blown people's hands off in laboratories, and we're dealing with a gallon jar of it. So it's extremely sensitive to vibrations, heat, or light.
And that made removing the acid very difficult. Members of the police bomb disposal unit carefully attached the jar to a pulley system and placed it in the bomb disposal unit. They took the acid to the police bomb range, where it was detonated without incident.
Fire in the hole!
Dan Slocum has more now, with reaction from the people evacuated.
It was an extremely delicate operation. Oklahoma City bomb squad members working with the Oklahoma City Fire Department's Hazardous Materials Unit had to gingerly remove 15 bottles of the highly explosive picric acid, 1 bottle at a time. The quart jars of crystallized picric were at separate locations on different floors in the building.
The largest quantity we found was on the 4th floor, where we found 5 bottles on that floor. That, of course, could have seriously damaged the structure, blown windows out, and caused some severe injuries.
However, the picric acid was safely removed and taken to the Oklahoma County bomb range, where it was exploded. Ironically, though, right after the picric acid from the OU Biomedical Sciences building was exploded, there was another picric acid discovery, this time at Children's Memorial Hospital. Only 1 bottle was discovered there in a storage room near a loading dock. No patients were ever in danger. It, too, was safely removed.
That's an example of how firemen were forced to fight this fire from the outside in. And while there were some anxious moments when a wall was near collapse, mostly firemen had to wait it out because the fire had made the structure too dangerous to fight in it or on it.
The cock loft, or the attic area, was well involved, and it was up ahead, up above us. We tried to get on top of the roof to perform ventilation or put a hole in the roof, and the roof conditions got too spongy, so we ordered all firefighters off the roof, and shortly thereafter, the roof did collapse.
I smelled the smoke, so it woke me up.
Residents of an adjacent apartment complex were jostled from their beds this morning.
I started hearing this chainsaw and cutting metal and woke her up, and I said, I think we got a fire.
Not having any at all.
combination of heavy exertion and the cold morning air proved to be too much for one firefighter.
What did you call it? Pleuritic pain, more like cold night air and a lot of heavy breathing and chest pain around the lung area.
Firemen believe the fire started in the restaurant before spreading to the pool hall next door. They don't know what caused it. Mark Robertson Baker, News 4.
Kitao has wrestled some beasts in his days as a sumo wrestler, but this cowpoke in training met his match with Bill the Horse. Kitao is in Oklahoma this weekend, part of a tour of America. He wants to see as much of our heritage as he can, since most of his life has been spent eating and wrestling.
Easy, Bill.
It's a beautiful, big place, you know, and it's really nice.
A TV network from Japan is following Kitao on his journey in Oklahoma and the rest of the country. The Japanese know Kitao better as the Muhammad Ali of sumo. He's immensely popular in Japan, and millions of viewers are expected to watch the documentary about his travels.
It's going to kind of convey our Western heritage to the Japanese people and hopefully pique their interest a little bit and come to Oklahoma.
And you put your foot in, swing up like that.
Kitao wanted to make sure he learned how to mount a horse while he was here in Oklahoma, but maybe he should stick to sumo. Bill the Horse sure seems to think so.
Ah!
Look at him.
Oh boy, I think I got it this time. Yeah, there we go.
Al Wheeler isn't a conservationist, but he is preserving a piece of Oklahoma City wildlife.
Take them up to the tank and run them over to the other lake, and they'll all live happily ever after.
He's saving the fish in Regal Lake. The lake is being drained and dredged to remove years of silt and sediment. Al lives on the lakeside, and though he welcomes the improvement, he says no one remembered the fish that would die. He says they're worth saving.
Everybody has to contribute something to make themselves feel right, you know. And it may not be anything of any great value to them, but someday it might be.
For about a week, Al has taken garbage cans full of crappie, catfish, and bass out of the lake and moved them downstream to the other side of a dam. He admits that the seagulls may finish the job for him, but he says some things are just worth doing.
This will be the new home, and if I get to fish this place, it'll be fine. If I don't, somebody else will get the enjoyment of it. Okay, kids, get ready for your new home. A lot of people probably laugh about it and say, well, that's just a drop in the bucket to the whole problem. But nevertheless, a bucket is composed of drops. And if we got enough people interested in preserving some of the things of life that can't be bought and paid for on a credit card, maybe it's worth it.
Bob Donaldson, News 4.
Elaine Klein, working in the cafeteria at Strother High School means more than just a paycheck.
Like I say, I graduated from here. My 2 girls graduated from here, and brothers and sisters, and it's just kind of a family atmosphere, really.
For more than 10 years, Elaine Klein has been a faithful worker, but right now a temporary court injunction is the only reason she's still on the job. Her nephew was elected to the Strother School Board, and she was told her contract would not be renewed. State nepotism laws do not allow relatives of school board members to work in the same district.
The law says he has the right to run, but I can't find anybody that tells me I have the right to keep my job.
Betty Hester works in the same cafeteria and is in the same boat with Elaine. The same school board member is her nephew, too.
How do I feel about it? I've cried a lot. I've woke up several times with a wet pillow.
Harvey Hester, the nephew and school board member, claims that he didn't realize his relatives would be out of a job when he decided to run.
Harvey, if it really comes down to it and your relatives have to lose their jobs, would you resign before that would happen?
Not since I give my word to the community that I would do the best job that I can and uphold this position no matter what.
And that leaves his relatives, Betty Hester and Elaine Klein, in court fighting to keep their paychecks, their retirement, and the jobs they love so much. Cynthia Gunn, News 4.
Water is something special here in the Panhandle. It's changed bleak stretches of harsh land into lush fields of wheat and corn. But the water that irrigates these fields comes with a price tag. The irrigation pumps are powered by natural gas. Suddenly, the cost of that gas has skyrocketed, threatening the families who make a living from the land.
Oh yeah, everybody that's pumping water is concerned.
To Norman Fisher, it seems like a vicious joke. A new federal regulation has allowed gas companies to double, triple, even quadruple the prices they charge farmers.
Most people pretty worried up here?
Well, I think a lot of them are. And besides just farmers, because this gets on into the local towns too and local economies.
A lot of the younger farmers up here are thinking about calling it quits. For them, the rate hike issue is more than just a matter of money. It means their families, their livelihood. You can hear the anger in their voices.
This is a livelihood that I love, and I hate to be forced out of it. You know, it's not from anything that we've done. We've had it done to us without representation.
The impact of the rate hikes is expected to spread all across the Panhandle. Local feedlots are planning to lay off workers already. Now, every farmer who irrigates his land is wondering if it's time to get out. In Texas County, Peter Mays, News 4 Nightcast.
Farming, I enjoy it, or running cows, nothing like it.
Things were pretty good for Tommy Moore and his family, even grossed $103,000 one year. But in 1985, an oil line through his property sprung a leak. Many of his 150 head of cattle became sick. Some died. All are gone now. Firewood is especially important. They haven't had propane for the last 3 months, but the DHS office in Stillwater delivered some yesterday.
My big truck, it a rod bearing turn on it and need a crank chap and a head, and the banker he's not going to help me because I live too far from his bank.
A growing operation he had, hauling dirt and rock, went sour last October, and now he's gone from everything ahead to all of it behind. He can't drive to the Human Services office in Stillwater, so they're coming to his place tomorrow to help him sign up for emergency food stamps and maybe some advice on a small business loan.
No, I don't care nothing about handouts. I'd rather have a loan to where I can feel better about it.
Some say as many as 10% of Oklahoma's farmers could qualify for food stamps. Sheer desperation will drive far fewer than that number to apply. In eastern Payne County, George Tomick, News 4.
The war on drugs became even more dangerous last night as a hail of gunfire welcomed police. Officers say they broke down the door on a first-floor apartment at the Park Forest Apartments on Southeast 46th Street. As soon as the door came open, police say the suspects fired at least 2 shots, striking one officer in the belt buckle and another in the hand.
The suspects that had fired threw the weapons down immediately, threw their hands up, so there was no reason for any return fire by any of the police officers.
Since police say they didn't fire a shot, they believe this suspect was hit in the chest by a bullet that came from inside the apartment. Police arrested at least 4 suspects. They say no one escaped. It's not clear who fired the shots. A next-door neighbor said he heard at least 6 shots.
North side of the street.
I thought at first it was a fight over there, and then somebody got mad and pulled out a gun and shot somebody. And I was fixing to run back to the kitchen and call the police.
But the police were already there. Officers wearing bulletproof vests had identified themselves. Officials say the suspects inside were poised to waste some cops.
The dealers obviously knew they were coming. As soon as the door opened, they opened fire on the officers. So what really scares me is the fact that these criminals are setting up trying to kill police officers.
In the last year, police have put a lot of pressure on suspected drug dealers. Now those crooks are beginning to feel the heat, and they're firing back. In Oklahoma City, Bill Prasad, News 4.
It seems fitting that on a day when the country remembers its symbol of patriotism, the Marine Corps would remember someone who kept the flag flying in war.
I didn't try to be a hero, and I wasn't a hero. I just tried to do my job and stay alive, and so far I've managed that.
Raise it.
Gene Montgomery is still alive more than 30 years after he was wounded in Korea. It's taken him that long to get the medal and other citations he earned.
Presidential Unit Citation awarded to the 1st Marine Division for service in Korea, 1951.
Gene says this Purple Heart and a quarter would have bought him a beer when he got out of the Marines. That indifference and government bureaucracy delayed this ceremony for decades. But he admits the award means much more now that old age has confined him to this wheelchair.
I used to be too ornery, I'd say it. To care what lived or died, but now I feel like I've got it made with the maker, and I'm not scared, so I guess everything's just pretty good.
Gene also says remembering this Flag Day will be a little easier now that he's been remembered as well. Bob Donaldson, News 4.
At about 8 o'clock, the fire department told the owners of this store floodwaters were on their way.
The only thing is it'll beat itself to death on the walls if it floats, but I think it's heavy enough to stay down.
Businesses all along West Noble Street prepared for the worst. Members of the community, big and small, pitched in a race against Mother Nature. They remember a damaging flood that struck here 6 years ago.
Put it on top of the toolbox on this side. Now on the other side, there ain't enough room.
You have to just kind of sit and wait, and you get antsy. My stomach hurts. I'm nervous. It's just the strain of it. We've been packing up since about 7.
At 4 a.m., water from the Cottonwood Creek and the sewer system backed out onto the streets. police started thinking about blocking off those streets. Motorists inched their way across the water.
This sucker's still rising. The information that we're getting is that it's going to be about 25 foot, which would be 3 foot over the flood stage.